The Veil of Forgotten Stars. The shimmering expanse of the Zorathian cluster was a breathtaking sight. It was a region of space where stars burned brighter, as though defying the emptiness that surrounded them. But hidden among these stars was something far less visible, a secret that had been lost to time and memory. Humanity had stretched its reach across the stars, carving its name into the universe with sheer determination and ingenuity. But it had not done so alone. Beneath the surface of this bold expansion lay whispers of betrayal and buried truths. Captain Lyra Vos adjusted her neural interface, the faint hum of her starship, Eidolon, a soothing constant in her ears. The ship was sleek, designed for reconnaissance, but capable of combat if required. It bore the scars of countless journeys, each one etched into its hull like a history of survival. Today's mission, however, carried an unsettling weight. Approaching the coordinates, Captain, reported Ensign Tarek, his voice tense yet focused. The young officer's hands hovered over the console, recalibrating for precise navigation. Lyra leaned forward, her sharp gray eyes fixed on the holographic map. The destination marked a dead system, officially abandoned centuries ago following a catastrophic stellar collapse. Yet recent intelligence hinted at something stirring within. Something forgotten. "Stay alert," Lyra instructed, her voice firm but calm. "This system is classified as dormant, but dormant doesn't mean harmless. Run another sweep." Tarek nodded, activating a deeper scan of the system. A moment later, his face paled. "Captain, there's a structure here. Massive. And it's not on any charts." Lyra's heart skipped a beat, though her expression remained composed. On screen, the crew exchanged uneasy glances. They all understood what this meant. A facility like this, forgotten by time yet still operational, could only have one purpose. It was a remnant of the Concordia Initiative. The name sent shivers through Lyra's spine. The Concordia Initiative was a dark chapter in humanity's history. A desperate alliance formed long before humanity had fully ventured beyond its solar system. Facing annihilation from an enigmatic alien species, the initiative had created weapons of unimaginable power and questionable morality. The details were buried under layers of classified files, but one truth remained. Concordia had vanished, along with its projects. "Tarek," Lyra ordered, her tone sharpening. "Initiate a secure data link to Central Command. We'll need their authorization to investigate." "Yes, Captain." As Tarek worked, Lyra turned to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Zara Kane, a seasoned officer whose calm demeanor was a counterweight to the tension in the room. "Thoughts, Lieutenant?" Zara studied the screen with a critical eye. "If this is what it seems, it's not just a historical artifact. Something kept it alive all this time. And if Concordia's tech is involved, we could be looking at something far more dangerous than just an old installation." Lyra nodded. "Agreed, which is why we're not setting foot on it until we know exactly what we're dealing with." Tarek looked up from his console, his expression grim. "Captain, I've got command on the line. They're authorizing the investigation, but with strict parameters. If this is Concordia tech, they want full containment." "Understood," Lyra replied, though she didn't miss the unspoken tension in Tarek's voice. Containment was a military euphemism for total destruction if the situation spiraled out of control. The Eidolon maneuvered closer to the structure, and Lyra's instincts screamed caution. The installation loomed larger, its intricate design becoming visible. It was unlike anything she had seen, a fusion of human and alien architecture, brimming with an unsettling symmetry. "Docking complete," Zara announced, her voice steady. "Atmosphere readings suggest it's stable, but the composition is unusual. It's breathable but heavily modified." Lyra frowned. "Modified how?" Zara's fingers danced over her console. "Oxygen levels are elevated, and trace elements of an unknown compound are present. It's almost as if it's designed to enhance physical or cognitive performance." That revelation deepened the mystery. Why would an abandoned facility maintain such an atmosphere? and for whom. As the boarding team prepared, Lyra handpicked a small crew to accompany her. Zara insisted on joining, her tactical expertise invaluable, while Tarek stayed behind to oversee operations from the ship. The airlock hissed as it sealed behind them, the corridor ahead illuminated by dim, flickering lights. The walls pulsed faintly, as though the structure itself was alive. Every step echoed, a haunting reminder of the emptiness that surrounded them. The view shifted to reveal a colossal installation orbiting a dying star. Its dark surface seemed to absorb the light around it, rendering it almost invisible against the backdrop of space. Ancient, yet intact, the structure had an eerie presence, as though it were waiting. "Any life signs?" Lyra asked, her voice cutting through the thick silence. Tarek hesitated. "None. But there's an active power signature. Minimal, but unmistakable." "This place feels wrong," Zora muttered, her hand resting on her sidearm. "It's too pristine, like it's been waiting for someone." "Or something," Lyra added quietly. Her neural interface buzzed with data streams, scanning for anomalies, but the results only heightened her unease. They entered a massive chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows. In the center stood a monolithic device, its surface covered in glowing inscriptions that shifted as they approached. The patterns were alien, yet interwoven with distinctly human designs. "Captain," Zora called, her voice tense. "We've got movement." Lyra's heart raced as her eyes darted to the shadows. A figure emerged, humanoid but distinctly alien. Its form shimmered with an iridescent glow, and its eyes burned with an intensity that seemed to pierce through them. "Identify yourself," Lyra demanded, raising her weapon, though she knew instinctively it wouldn't be enough. The being tilted its head, its voice resonating in their minds rather than their ears. "You are not forgotten." The words sent a chill down Lyra's spine. They were not a threat, but a statement, laden with a meaning she couldn't yet grasp. Before she could respond, the chamber began to hum, the inscriptions on the monolith flaring to life. "What's happening?" Zara shouted, her voice barely audible over the rising noise. The being stepped aside, revealing a holographic projection that filled the room. It displayed a map of the galaxy, countless points of light representing systems, but many of them flickered ominously. "Your kind made a pact," the being said, its voice calm yet filled with purpose. A pact forgotten by time, but not by design. Lyra's mind raced. What pact? And why had it led them here? The answers, she realized, would not only uncover a forgotten chapter of human history, but determine the fate of the galaxy itself. "Captain," Zara said urgently, "we need to leave. Now." But Lyra hesitated. The galaxy map shimmered, revealing a single pulsing red point, their home system. Whatever this was, it wasn't just history. It was a warning. And it had only just begun. Whispers of the pact. Back aboard the Eidolon, the tension in the air was palpable. The crew buzzed with barely contained nerves as Captain Lyra Vos paced the command deck, her sharp mind turning over every word the alien figure had spoken. "You are not forgotten." The cryptic statement echoed in her thoughts, tinged with both menace and meaning. The holographic map from the installation lingered in her mind. A galaxy dotted with systems, many of which flickered with a foreboding red glow. But it was the pulsing red mark over Earth that had sent a chill through her, a warning, perhaps, or a declaration. "Tarek, replay the scanned data from the structure," Lyra ordered, halting beside the main console. "I want every detail analyzed. Focus on the inscriptions and that holographic projection." "Yes, Captain," Tarek replied, his fingers flying over the controls. The hologram of the structure reappeared on the main display, its intricate patterns now rendered in sharp detail. Lieutenant Zara Kane stepped forward, her brow furrowed. "We need to talk about what just happened, Captain. That being. It wasn't hostile, but it wasn't welcoming either. It knew something we don't." Lyra nodded. "And it spoke of a pact. Whatever this installation is, it ties to humanity's early expansion, probably the Concordia Initiative. But this is bigger than forgotten tech. That holographic map wasn't just about us. Those red systems, there's more at stake here. Zara crossed her arms. If it's a warning, why point it at Earth? Why now? Tarek cleared his throat. "Captain, I found something," he said, his voice a mix of excitement and dread. "The inscriptions on the monolith, they're layered. One set is definitely alien, but the other, it's old Terran script, pre-expansion era, military-grade encryption." The revelation stunned the crew into silence. Old Earth military encryption was the hallmark of classified operations long buried by bureaucracy and time. It meant whoever had built the installation had worked hand in hand with humans during a time when the stars were still a frontier. "Decrypt it," Lyra said sharply. "Pull whatever you can." Tarek nodded, his focus narrowing as his hands danced across the console. The bridge fell quiet except for the low hum of the ship. Lyra's gaze lingered on the hologram, her thoughts spinning. A forgotten pact with alien allies, or enemies, could explain much of the Concordia Initiative's secrecy, but not its disappearance. Why had it been erased so completely from humanity's records? "Captain," Tarek called out, his voice tight. "You're going to want to see this." The main display flickered, then revealed lines of decoded text. It was fragmented but chilling in its clarity. Operation Veilfire enacted. Concordia assets transferred to Zone Omega. Pact remains in effect until containment failure. Unauthorized access triggers contingency protocols. Coordinates encoded. Zora's face darkened. Containment failure. That doesn't sound promising. "It sounds like a ticking bomb," Lyra muttered. She tapped the console, isolating the phrase Zone Omega. A new set of coordinates appeared on the display, deep in uncharted space. A cold dread settled in her chest. Tarek cross-referenced these coordinates with any known star charts, Lyra ordered. "It's an empty sector," he replied almost immediately. "No known systems, no recorded activity. It's dead space." "Not dead," Lyra said, hiding. Zara leaned closer to the display, her expression hardening. If this is Zone Omega, then that installation was a waypoint, not the destination. Whatever's in Zone Omega is the real target. And the containment failure could already be in progress. Lyra finished grimly. The weight of the situation pressed down on the room. The installation had been a clue, a breadcrumb leading them to something far more significant, and potentially far more dangerous. Yet the cryptic warnings left them with no clear understanding of what they were walking into. The shadows of Zone Omega. Hours later, the Eidolon approached the edge of the Zone Omega coordinates. The vast emptiness ahead of them seemed almost unnatural, as if the region actively repelled exploration. There were no stars, no debris, only a void that felt oppressive in its silence. "Scanning the area now," Tarek said, his voice low. The tension on the bridge was palpable. Every crew member seemed to instinctively hold their breath, as if the stillness of the void demanded their silence. The results came back almost instantly, and Tarek froze. "Captain, you need to see this." Lyra strode to his station, her eyes narrowing at the data. A faint energy signature emanated from the center of the void, pulsing irregularly like a failing heartbeat. But more troubling was what surrounded it. Debris fields, thousands of them, drifting like ghostly remnants of a battle long forgotten. "Zoom in," Lyra commanded. The image shifted to reveal shattered ships of unknown design, their hulls scarred and broken. The scale of destruction was staggering. Entire fleets reduced to rubble. Among the wreckage were human vessels, their Terran insignias barely visible beneath layers of soot and damage. "Concordia's fleet," Zara whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. "This is where they disappeared." Lyra nodded grimly. The mystery of Concordia's vanishing had haunted humanity for generations, but the truth was far darker than anyone had imagined. They hadn't vanished. They had been silenced, obliterated in a conflict no one had ever learned about. "Captain, the energy signature is spiking," Tarek warned. "It's coming from the center of the field." "Plot a course," Lyra said. "We're going in." The Eidolon maneuvered carefully through the debris, its shields shimmering as they brushed against fragments of ancient metal. The closer they came to the energy source, the more oppressive the atmosphere grew. The crew felt it too, a gnawing unease, as though the void itself was watching. Finally, they reached the center. A massive station loomed before them, its surface cracked but still functional. Unlike the previous installation, this one bore the scars of battle, burn marks, hull breaches, and jagged repairs. Yet it pulsed with the same eerie energy, a faint blue glow radiating from its core. "Bring us into docking range," Lyra ordered. "Zara, assemble a team. We're going aboard." Tarek hesitated. "Captain, are you sure about this? Whatever happened here, it wasn't meant to be found." Lyra met his gaze, her expression resolute. "And that's exactly why we have to. If this station holds the answers to Concordia's secrets, we can't afford to turn back." As the Eidolon locked onto the station, Lyra felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on her. Whatever they found aboard the station, it would change everything about humanity's past, its alliances, and the forgotten pacts that bound them to a future they could no longer control. But one thing was clear. The forgotten stars of Zone Omega were about to reveal their secrets, whether humanity was ready or not. Echoes of Concordia. The boarding crew stood at the airlock, suited up and tense. The oppressive silence of the station beyond the airlock seemed to seep through the walls, wrapping the team in an unsettling grip. Captain Lyra Vos scanned her team, her sharp eyes lingering on Lieutenant Zara Kane, who stood resolute, her sidearm ready. Each member of the team carried not just weapons, but the weight of uncertainty, their mission veiled in shadows. The Eidolon's docking umbilical extended, locking into place with a metallic thud. The airlock hissed open, revealing the dimly lit corridor. The walls bore faint scorch marks and dents, signs of long-forgotten battles. A faint hum filled the air, resonating like the station's heartbeat. "Stay sharp," Lyra said, stepping inside. Her boots echoed loudly in the emptiness, each step a reminder of how alone they were. The corridor stretched forward, leading to a large chamber. As they entered, the glow of dormant terminals flickered to life, their screens displaying cryptic symbols interwoven with old Terran script. Lyra's neural interface pinged as it attempted to decode the symbols, but the language was a hybrid of human and alien code, ancient and impenetrable. "This place is alive," Zora muttered, scanning the chamber. "It's watching us." Lyra nodded, her instincts screaming caution. The station wasn't just operational, it was reacting to their presence. But whether it was friend or foe remained unclear. "Tarek," Lyra called over the comms. "We're inside. Link the Eidolon systems to the station's mainframe. Let's see if we can access anything useful." "On it, Captain," Tarek replied. "But be careful. This system's architecture is strange. It's almost like it's resisting the connection." Lyra approached one of the terminals, its screen shifting as if to focus on her. Lines of text appeared, resolving into something chillingly familiar. "Command override. Authorized. Welcome, Captain Vos. Initiating debrief." The crew froze. The station had identified her by name. "Debrief?" Zara asked, her voice low. "This thing knows who you are." "Apparently," Lyra replied, though the implications unsettled her. She hadn't been born when the Concordia initiative had vanished, yet the station recognized her, as if she were part of its chain of command. Before she could ponder further, the chamber dimmed, and a holographic projection filled the space. It showed a vast fleet of ships, both human and alien, standing together against a shadowy force. The alien vessels were sleek, their designs flowing like liquid metal, while the human ships bristled with weaponry. Together, they formed an alliance of necessity, their unity forged in the face of annihilation. "This is Concordia." The hologram intoned in a synthetic voice, neutral yet commanding. "A coalition born to face the Voidborn threat." Lyra's breath caught. The Voidborn. The name was as ominous as it was unfamiliar, yet it resonated with an ancient terror. "Who, or what, are the Voidborn?" Zara asked, her hand tightening on her weapon. The hologram shifted, displaying a dark, amorphous mass that seemed to ripple and consume light itself. It was vast, dwarfing even the largest ships in the fleet. Its tendrils extended like veins, seeping into planets, draining them of life, and leaving barren husks. "They are entropy made manifest," the voice explained. "A force that devours civilizations, leaving only void. They exist beyond comprehension, beyond negotiation." The crew stared in stunned silence. This was no ordinary enemy. It was an existential threat, one humanity had never known. The pact revealed. The hologram transitioned, showing a council chamber where human leaders sat alongside alien counterparts. Their expressions were grim, their postures tense. They spoke in hushed tones, their words drowned out by the narrator's voice. To counter the Voidborn, the Concordia Initiative was formed. Humans and allied species shared technology, strategies, and resources, creating the first unified defense force in the galaxy. But victory required sacrifices. The scene changed to show massive stations, similar to the one they now occupied, being constructed in deep space. Each one glowed with a unique energy, a fusion of human ingenuity and alien science. These stations were designed as containment points, anchoring barriers to halt the Voidborn's advance. Each station housed a fragment of the technology that could destroy them, but only if activated in unison. The cost of failure was deemed unacceptable. Zara's brow furrowed. They built these stations as a last line of defense. Lyra nodded slowly. "And buried them so deep that even we forgot they existed." But why had humanity abandoned the pact? Why had Concordia been erased from history, its sacrifices consigned to oblivion? The answer came moments later. The hologram flickered, now showing a heated argument among the council members. Tensions flared, voices raised. One alien delegate slammed the table, its gestures aggressive. The human representatives looked equally furious. Disagreements fractured the alliance. The voice continued. Differing priorities, distrust, and the enormity of the threat led to the pact's dissolution. Humanity withdrew, sealing its knowledge, and leaving the galaxy unprepared. Lyra's stomach churned. The galaxy had been left defenseless, all because of fear and politics. And now, centuries later, the Voidborn seemed to be stirring once more. "Captain." Tarek's voice crackled over the comms. "We've got incoming." Multiple signatures just appeared on the edge of the system. Lyra's blood ran cold. "Can you identify them?" "Negative," Tarek replied. "But they're massive. Definitely not friendly." The crew exchanged worried glances. If the Voidborn were returning, they were woefully unprepared. A silent betrayal. "Fall back to the ship," Lyra ordered, her voice firm. "We need to regroup." The team retraced their steps, the station seeming to pulse with urgency as if it shared their fear. As they reached the airlock, the synthetic voice spoke again, louder this time. "You cannot leave. Activation is required." The words froze Lyra in her tracks. What activation? The terminal near the airlock flared to life, displaying a sequence of symbols. Lyra's neural interface parsed it, revealing a single chilling directive. Final protocol. Initiate containment. The crew hesitated, their instincts screaming that this wasn't a choice to make lightly. But before Lyra could respond, Zara stepped forward. "Captain, if we don't activate this station, those incoming ships might tear us apart." "And if we do?" Lyra countered. "What are we activating? The last thing we need is to unleash something worse." A deep rumble echoed through the station, as if it were responding to their indecision. The lights flickered, and a hologram reappeared, this time showing the voidborn mass creeping closer. Containment must be maintained, the voice insisted. Lyra clenched her fists. There was no time to deliberate. The voidborn, or whatever those signatures were, would arrive soon. Whatever decision she made could determine the survival of her crew, and perhaps humanity itself. Tarek, she called over the comms, prepare the Eidolon for an emergency jump. Zara, stay with me. The rest of you, back to the ship. The crew obeyed, their faces taut with anxiety. Lyra turned back to the terminal, the weight of the galaxy pressing down on her as she prepared to make a choice that would echo across the stars. The trigger of legacy. The rumble from deep within the station resonated through the metal floor, growing louder and more erratic with each passing second. Captain Lyra Vos stood before the terminal, her mind racing. The words displayed, "Final protocol. Initiate containment," flashed ominously, demanding action. Behind her, Lieutenant Zara Kane maintained her usual composure, though Lyra could see the tension in her stance. This wasn't just another mission. It was a step into the unknown, with the fate of their crew, and possibly the galaxy, hanging in the balance. "Captain," Zara said, her voice low but urgent, "whatever's heading for us, it's not going to wait. We need to make a call." Lyra clenched her fists, her gaze fixed on the flickering hologram. The voidborn mass hovered on the display, its dark tendrils creeping closer to the central station. It wasn't just a projection. It was a warning, an echo of an ancient enemy that refused to stay buried. "Tarek," Lyra called through her comms, "status on those incoming signatures." Tarek's voice came through, strained and breathless. "They're closing fast, Captain. I've got 20. No, 30 ships. They're massive, but they don't match any known configurations. I'm not sure if they're voidborn or something else." Zara frowned. "If there's something else, why now? This station's activation must have drawn them." Lyra's lips tightened. "We need answers, and we won't get them running blind." She turned back to the terminal. The glowing prompt for activation was a double-edged sword. The technology housed within the station was designed to contain the voidborn, but it came with risks. Risks Concordia had deemed so great they buried the entire initiative. With a deep breath, Lyra pressed her hand against the console. The station's biometric scanner flared to life, its light scanning her palm. A sharp tone sounded, followed by a deep mechanical voice that filled the chamber. "Biometric match confirmed. Initiating final protocol." The station roared to life. Lights along the walls pulsed in synchronized patterns, and the central structure hummed with raw power. The holographic map flickered, shifting to show the surrounding system. Lines of energy radiated outward, forming a protective grid that encapsulated the entire area. But it wasn't just the station reacting. The voidborn signatures on the map surged, their movements erratic as if sensing the shift. "Captain," Tarek's voice cut through. "Whatever you just did, they're accelerating. They'll be on us in less than 10 minutes. Lyra turned to Zara. "We need to understand what this protocol is doing. See if you can find a control interface." Zara moved swiftly to one of the nearby terminals. Her fingers danced over the controls, pulling up layers of data. "Looks like the protocol is generating some kind of dimensional barrier. It's meant to cut off the voidborn from entering normal space." Lyra nodded. "A containment field." "Sort of," Zara replied, frowning. "But this isn't just defensive. There's a secondary system tied to it. A weapon system." "What kind of weapon?" Lyra demanded. Zara's screen filled with data, the language alien and barely decipherable. "It's hard to tell, but it looks like an energy cascade. Something that disrupts the voidborn's molecular stability. It doesn't just trap them, it obliterates them." Lyra felt a surge of hope, tempered by caution. So this station was built to fight them. Zara's gaze turned grim. "Yes, but it's not designed to be a single-use weapon. The entire grid needs to activate across multiple stations to be effective. This one can hold them back, maybe destroy a few, but it won't stop them entirely. Lyra's heart sank. The hologram had shown dozens of these stations scattered across the galaxy. If only one was active, the rest of the containment system had failed. They were a lone outpost against an ancient, insatiable threat. The encounter. The chamber shook violently, a deep reverberation that sent dust cascading from the ceiling. Lyra's comms flared with Tarek's panicked voice. "Captain, the ships are here." The station's hologram adjusted, displaying the fleet of incoming vessels. They were massive, their forms jagged and irregular, as though grown rather than built. Tendrils of energy coursed between them, their movements almost organic. "Voidborn?" Zara asked, her voice low. Tarek hesitated. I think so, but they're unlike anything in our records. They're bigger, more aggressive." Lyra's pulse quickened. The station's defense grid activated, beams of light forming a barrier around the installation. The Voidborn ships slammed into it, their energy tendrils probing for weaknesses. Sparks erupted as the grid resisted their assault. The station's voice returned, calm and mechanical despite the chaos. "Containment holding. Integrity at 87%. Projected failure in 9 minutes, 36 seconds without reinforcement." "Reinforcement," Zara repeated bitterly. "From where?" Lyra's mind raced. If this was one of the last functional Concordia stations, the others were either destroyed or dormant. There was no cavalry coming. They were on their own. "Tarek, ready the Eidolon's weapons," Lyra ordered. "We'll buy this station as much time as we can." "Yes, Captain," Tarek replied. "But we're going to need more than just weapons." Zara glanced at Lyra, her expression resolute. "If the grid fails, the Voidborn will consume this station, and us with it." Lyra nodded grimly. "Then we don't let the grid fail." She turned back to the terminal, scanning the data Zara had uncovered. Among the alien symbols and human code was a section labeled "Override." It was risky, but it might be their only chance. "I'm activating the station's secondary systems," Lyra said. "If we can amplify the energy output, we might be able to push them back. Or overload the station," Zara countered. "And take ourselves out in the process." Lyra met Zara's gaze. "If we don't try, the Voidborn win anyway." Zara nodded. "Then let's make it count." The beacon ignites. Lyra initiated the override, her neural interface syncing with the station's controls. The hologram flared, its glow intensifying as the grid's energy output surged. The Voidborn ships recoiled, their tendrils snapping back as the barrier pushed them further into the void. But the strain on the station was evident. Alarms blared, and the walls trembled as systems overloaded. Integrity down to 60%. Zara called out, "We're burning through power reserves too fast." "Divert auxiliary systems," Lyra ordered. "We just need to hold a little longer." The Voidborn mass shifted, their movements becoming frenzied. They weren't retreating. They were adapting. One of the ships pressed against the barrier, its tendrils piercing through. A beam of energy shot toward the station, slamming into its outer hull. The impact threw Lyra off her feet, and sparks rained down from the ceiling. Zora pulled her up, shouting over the chaos. The barrier's collapsing. Lyra gritted her teeth. Not yet. She accessed the final sequence of the override, her neural interface warning her of catastrophic risks. The station's core glowed brighter, the energy cascade reaching its peak. The Voidborn ships trembled, their forms destabilizing, as the cascade rippled through the void. The voice returned one last time. Cascade activated. Containment maintained. Final warning. Evacuation advised. Tarek. Lyra shouted into her comms. Get the ship ready for emergency extraction. Zara grabbed her arm, urgency in her voice. Captain, we need to go. Now. Lyra hesitated, her gaze lingering on the glowing core. The station had done its part, but it was clear it wouldn't survive another assault. Neither would they if they stayed. "Move," she shouted. The crew raced back to the Eidolon, the station shaking violently as the cascade reached its climax. The void-born ships disintegrated one by one, their forms collapsing into the void, but more lingered at the edges, waiting. As the Eidolon detached, Lyra watched the station through the viewport. It pulsed like a dying star, its final act of defiance against an ancient enemy. The galaxy's forgotten legacy had awakened, but the war was far from over.